Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Cafecito Cultural. Hello, and welcome to our Culture and Diversity conversational panel of this professional learning community group. I'm Rosabel, founder of this wonderful group of professionals that work together to bring culture and value diversity to our classes. Today, we are pleased to have with us our friend, Dr. Misty Freeman. Dr. Misty grew up and currently lives in South Alabama. She she lives about an hour south of Montgomery, which hosts several civil rights icons. Her childhood consists of poverty and survival. However, she beat the odds. Dr. Misty continues her career and currently joins working with special needs students. During her 20 years in education, Dr. Misty has acquired various experiences and extensive training. Experience includes roles as a social worker, teacher, school administrator, and director of special education. Training includes several college degrees, BS Vocational Rehabilitation, BS in Human Resource Management, MS in Exceptional Students Education, Applied Behavior Analysis, MS Collaborative Education, EDS Administration and Supervision, EDS Curriculum Instruction, and EDD Instructional Technology. As an educator of women of color, she realizes that there was something she needed to address, the calling on her life, the desire to promote effective learning and inclusion for students of color. Mocha Sprout developed out of the desire to help others achieve sustainable growth and became culturally responsive by creating new viewpoints. Dr. Misty is a thought leader, cultural and diversity strategist, and consultant. It is her mission to help others understand and transform the viewpoint of educating students of color. The vision of Mocha Sprout is for one to move beyond the surface and rise higher to cultivate new perspective. Members of PLC Culture and Diversity, help me to welcome Dr. Misty Freeman to our Cafecito Cultural. How you doing, Dr. Freeman?
Good morning. I'm so glad to be here, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. But I'm so excited to be here today and speak to you all about unconscious bias and microaggressions and how it affects the students of color.
All right. That's our conversation today. It's so interesting. I want to open this conversation with a question. And my question for you is, why is unconscious bias and microaggression a problem for a student of color in the learning environment?
For most students in the learning environment, they are in public schools, of course. And in public schools, we have like 80% white administrators and 53% students of color in that environment. Many times, the administrators do not know how to reach students of color. And it leads to students of color disengaging with the teacher as well as the learning environment. And as a result, the students begin to fall behind. If we think about Abraham Maslow and his hierarchical levels of needs, we can see that we must meet students where they are before they can kind of expand and become academically successful. So we want to meet them where they are and then just kind of move them up on that ladder so that they can become academically successful.
Okay. Anyone would like to ask a question before we move on? I want you guys to feel free to interact at any moment with Dr. Freeman or Misty and ask questions and have a conversation. Okay, we open to
Yes, please
all
ask
thoughts.
questions.
All right. So how can we address unconscious bias and microaggressions in the learning environment then?
One thing that we need to do is start having conversations. In many public school systems, the system is broken as far as addressing microaggressions and unconscious bias. A lot of times, the professional development consists of checklists and check boxes of things that need to be addressed based on school policy. But I think to address the bigger problem, we need to speak to teachers one on one, develop conversations, listen to them, as well as provide strategies on how they can reach those students of color. It's not always easy, and a lot of times teachers are unaware of their own bias. So we have to kind of make them aware of the bias in order to address the bias. And it's fine because we all have unconscious bias, but we need to know how that bias affects other people.
Okay, so let's say if I'm not a teacher of color
Mm-hmm.
and I feel uncomfortable approaching a student of color, what will be your best advice for that? Because sometimes I heard teachers say, well, I'm not an Afro-descendant and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't want to make the student feel, any way that he can put myself into a problem. And then is that like an excuse that they use for not address that? Or do you think that it's just, we need to kind of like educate some other educators to be able to?
Yes, I think we need to educate educators. I think many people are just not aware. For example, in the classroom, if there's a student with a unique name, and the student tells you how to pronounce her name, but as an educator, we continue to mispronounce her name, that can be offensive to that student. But many teachers are not aware of that, not because they're doing it intentionally, but they just don't know not to do it. But for many students of African descent, those names mean so much more than just the name. It's part of their identity. So when a teacher doesn't take the time to learn to pronounce that name, it's kind of saying your identity doesn't matter. It goes so much deeper than just the name. And I think that's what we have to educate our educators on, just making them aware and then teaching them strategies to do such. A lot of times in public schools, you have teachers who say, you speak so well for a Black person, or you speak so well, as if it's not expected for students of color to speak well. Or either you have some people that say, well, I don't see racism. Racism is very visible to people of color. And that's kind of dismissing the fact that there is a different experience for people of color. So it's just things like that that people need to be aware of. And then once they are aware, we have to transform that mindset, transform that thinking, and let them know that we're here to support. We're not here to, just go against you. We just want to have conversations that could lead to you providing better services for our students of color so that they can engage in the classroom and so that they can become successful. Once you establish that rapport, you can get more out of your students.
Ms. Freeman, I have a question. Um,
Okay.
you addressed about an opportunity for professional development. Is there like
Mm-hmm.
a survey that educators can take where they can kind of reflect on, wow, I didn't realize I had this bias? Is there a
I
survey
actually
available?
have a self-assessment that I send to educators, and it's just kind of a self-coaching experience, just to kind of let them know, or just kind of make them aware of some of the things that may be causing them to have a different type of relationship with students of color. As I said, many times teachers or educators, they are not aware. And even in general, if you're not an educator, I've had experiences just walking in the grocery store with a unique hairstyle and someone want to touch my hair. And it's
Yes.
not that they're being rude or mean or anything like that. They're just not aware of how that can affect you as a person of color. So I think just making people aware, and like I said, I do have an assessment that I kind of give to educators just to kind of let them know where they stand and maybe some things they are doing that are unconscious bias.
Right? Anyone else would like to have, do you guys have a question or any comment?
I had a question.
Okay.
So I live in a fairly non-diverse state, but in the southern part of New Hampshire, we do have some diversity. We have 14% student body that is Hispanic, maybe 7% Afro-American, between 3 and 4% Asian from different backgrounds. And so I've seen a need for a long time to address this, and I feel like there's an opening after the pandemic with the social emotional learning
Yes,
and some of the
yes,
professional development. I feel like that's a doorway
yes.
into these kinds of conversations. What are some tools that I can give to administrators first, who can then break this information and this awareness down into smaller groups?
I think for administrators, they have to look at the climate of their school system as well as the climate of the schools and the classrooms within those schools. I think with administrators, it's also you just kind of follow. Well, it's a top-down approach. If your administrator is all about addressing these issues, superintendents, administrators, I think your teachers are more willing to address those issues also. Um, I know that in Alabama and several surrounding states, the mindset is that the system is broken. And yes, that's true. But I think if we can get the perspective of educators that are in that classroom to change, it will make a major difference. Um, a lot of times administrators and superintendents, they just see PD, professional development. And yes, you have the facts that are given, the statistics that are given, and all of that information is good, but how can we do transformational leadership? How can we transform the minds of those educators? And that's what we need to look at, is transforming those minds, meeting teachers where they are and helping them to understand. And I think that's going to be more of a one-to-one individual type thing, but we still have to start at the top so that those teachers are willing to follow that leadership. So I think a lot of people do have the desire to change. It's just not knowing how and knowing exactly what to do to make it a better environment for their students.
All right. And that also, I would like to ask you, but what is most professional development related to unconscious bias and microaggressions in I would say ineffective?
And that's kind of like what I just said a few minutes ago. Like I said, most of the professional development is a checklist for the school system. We have to address diversity, we have to address inclusion, but we're not really addressing the problem. We're doing something that's required by policy, but we need to look at educators and just find a way to help them. They're in the classroom with those students daily. They're the ones with the relationships with those students. They're the ones teaching those students. And yes, we do want support from administrators. Yes, we do want support from superintendents. Yes, we do want support for all the higher ups. But initially, when it comes down to it, the educator in the classroom is the one making that change. So we have to find ways to help that person, besides just giving information on diversity, giving information on inclusion. We need more transformational coaching to meet the needs of those educators in that classroom.
Is correct. And how can we start this? I know that you are planning and probably providing professional development like this.
Yes, yes. I'm actually doing professional development with educators. I'm in an educator teaching group. It's mostly white women, but we just sit around and we discuss different topics, and they're open to trying to see how that they can make that change. And that's from that experience, I know that people want to change. They just don't know how. And I also know that a lot of people are not aware of what they're doing. So that's another thing, just making people aware. They have good intentions. It's just that I don't know that if I don't use the appropriate name, that I'm causing an effect on that student. I don't know if I say, your hair looks good today, can I touch it? It's causing an effect on that student. It's
Mhm.
not intentional in most situations. Many people don't know if they say I'm not a racist, that's a form of microaggressions. Or I don't see color, only because it denies the experience of people of color. But to them, I mean, it's a different, they're in a different place. So it's hard to see those experiences. It's hard to understand those experiences. So you have to be open to providing the information while at the same time understanding that everybody's experience is not the same. And also understanding that most people want to do better. So there's very few people that are not open to trying something different or doing something different to see their students perform better academically.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that sometimes also that have to be a lot with culture. That's what the
Yes.
Cafecito Cultural always trying to bring some information about other ethnicities, other people culture, because through learning through the culture of each individual or each group is how they can get more educated on what to say or what to do, what is acceptable or not acceptable.
Exactly. Like I said, it's based on our own experiences. We all have unconscious bias. We all like to be around people that look like us, talk like us, have the same interests as us. That's just how we're wired. I mean, that's just people as a whole. But when it's affecting someone and we don't know it and we don't try to change it, that's when the issue arises. So we just have to make sure that we are addressing those issues and making ourselves aware of what we need to do to help students of color.
Any other comment?
Uh, yes, Rosa, I would like to have a comment or two.
Okay.
Uh, Doctor, you're looking at it from the point of view of the professionals that are in the schools now.
Yes, or
I, I,
incoming.
well, incoming,
Mhm.
and that's my suggestion is that uh, we have to make sure that in our teacher preparation programs in
Mhm.
the colleges,
Yes.
excuse me, that we are preparing the students appropriately. Now, I went to college almost 50 years ago, excuse me, and everything that you're saying was covered in our psych courses,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because at least in my time, we had uh, 12 credits of adolescent psychology to take. And I had one professor who was absolutely wonderful uh, at getting across to us and preparing us to deal with youngsters uh, in all of these different areas that you're talking about. That's the first thing. And by the way, I'm not sure what they're doing in the colleges and universities in those educational programs because I in some areas I don't think that that they're not doing the job.
I agree.
Secondly, uh, here I'm in New York City. Uh, the last chancellor, let me see, let me see if I have this right. We have a new chancellor and the chancellor before. Uh, it might have been the penultimate chancellor or the chancellor before who tried to force this issue on the teachers.
Mhm.
Uh, and many of the teachers found it insulting. You
Mhm.
know, we are in an urban uh, uh, location, and uh, all of the schools have minority students, black, brown, Asian,
Mhm.
um, and we live amongst them.
Mhm.
Many of the teachers found it insulting
Yeah. And I
that
think it's
this was
also
being
about your approach. I'm sorry,
that
go
is
ahead.
yeah it was insulting that this was being forced down
Mhm.
the throats of the teachers uh and obviously they did not want to say anything to the principal or their assistant principal, but you know and I know because I have close ties with the teachers, even though I'm retired now, but I do have close ties with the teachers, and you know what their comments are, uh, and this does not make things better.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. And those conversations are going to be difficult. I do think that we have to be courageous enough to attack the issues and the problems that are going on. But I also think it's your approach. If we approach teachers and just say, you need racism training, you need diversity training, of course they're going to look at it as if, okay, why? What am I doing? I'm not doing anything wrong. So it's all about our approach. And I feel like we need to focus more on improving the academics of students of color. Okay, you have half your class excelling. why can't I reach these students? What can I do to reach this group of students? What is the problem? And that's when conversation comes in about, well, maybe it's unconscious bias. Maybe it's microaggressions. These are some things that affect students of color, and they do not engage in the learning environment. And once they disengage, the learning process is just pretty much shot. I mean, they don't achieve academically. So I think it's all in how you approach it. Like I said, I do believe that there are a lot of people that are willing to have these conversations, and some people are just unaware. Um, if I come to you and say, you need to do diversity training, that can cause a lot of people to just kind of pull back and say, this is something I just don't want to get into right now. So we have to be careful about our approach. And that's where the superintendent or the district administrators, that's when they come in to kind of display the information and show you the route to take in making sure that you reach those students.
All right, thank you so much for all these explanations and opening to answer these questions as well. You have a organization. What is mochasprout.org?
Mocha Sprout is the name of my organization, my company, and the tagline is to cultivate new perspectives. When I thought of the name, I was trying to determine what would best fit what I'm trying to do. So I thought about Sprout because that's cultivation. And then I thought about Mocha for Black and Brown students. So I said, when I combine Black and Brown, that's Mocha. So that's kind of how I came up with the name. Like I said, the tagline is to cultivate new perspectives. And that's really what it's all about. I want to be a voice to transform people in the way they think. I just want to cultivate new outlooks, have them to look at things differently, move past our traditional way of doing professional development for educators as far as diversity and inclusion is concerned. Like I said, the system we have is not working, and that's very obvious. So I think we're going to have to take a different approach. And I feel like this approach may actually work. We're just going to have to be consistent in making sure that teachers are aware and that we give them strategies on how to change.
Okay. So I'm trying to look at I share over here with everyone the website. Very nice website. And it says about coming soon, couple of plans that you already have.
Yes.
About coaching, learning, and online courses as well.
Yes, I'm going to do online courses as well as provide some coaching to educators. And I hope to base the coaching on neuroscience. Neuroscience changes or looks at why we think the way we do and how we can kind of change our way of thinking. And I think that's what we need, just to kind of determine why we think the way we do and what can we do to change the format of our thinking.
Perfect. When Ms. Eula, you was trying to say something? No. Okay, I thought Miss Eula was trying to say something. Okay, so I'm gonna share as well your Instagram. And once again, so people can follow you and can also look at your website, mochasprout.org. You have what I have here is you got online okay, so available resources, and you coming soon will be an online course. Do you know, like, you have any day plan when you're gonna have this open for coaching?
My hope is to have everything launched by the middle of April as far as the courses.
Middle of April. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to also provide that on the below on the when we finish with the interview and pass the video to the other members.
Okay, that's good.
In general. Any other questions before we close our Cafecito Cultural? Yes, Ms. Eula, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Freeman, I also want to ask, on your website, do you also offer training for educators on how they need to be respectful towards one another and not have those unconscious bias? Because I will tell you, in the high school, I am the only face that you will see, and Coach Smith. And so I have a couple of colleagues, I don't know why, but for some, I'm 55 years old, but they always want to address me as, hey, girl, and girl,
Mhm.
girl, that. And it's
Yes.
like, I'm 55. I know I look young, but please call me Eula or please call me Profe Boy. You know, we're,
Yes.
and the touching of the hair, which I don't understand. We're
I don't
adults, but for
understand that
some
either,
reason,
but
they have to touch the hair.
touch the hair. Yes.
So
I
is there,
experienced those same type of activities. And that's why it was kind of easy for me to walk into this calling, because
yes,
even going through universities, getting degrees, I've always noticed the interaction between myself and professors as a student, K through 12, the interaction between myself and the teacher as I started to work, even now, the interaction between myself and my coworkers. To answer your question, currently I do not. I kind of want to focus on the interaction between the students and the teachers right now. At some point, I may go into addressing those issues also. I feel like our students really need some support. Yeah, as adults, we do too, but we're losing so many Black and brown students. And I feel there's a major need to address the issues. They spend most of their time in school. They're with this one teacher a whole year. So I think there has to be some kind of relationship and there has to be a positive influence. If not, we're going to continue to have students who drop out of school, um, students who are just unsuccessful and not doing as well as they could in society. So, but yes, I do understand where you're coming from. I feel the same way. You have people where you're most of the time you're the minority in the group, so of course their experiences are different. So the way they respond to you is different, and you can always make them aware. I think you can be tactful in making them aware of what they said and how they said it. Because, like I said, I think a lot of people are just not aware, and then some people, I think they feel like they connect to you if they feel like when you say they say hey girl, I think they feel like maybe that's what you're used to, but that doesn't represent all people of color. You can't use one person to represent all people of color, and you can't use one person to represent whatever is persuade in the media. So all of those are things that you could have conversations about. And like I said, it depends on how you approach it, because if you approach it in a positive way, most of the time people are open to understanding what you're saying, and then they're more they're more aware of what they're saying to you. So yes.
I'm thinking while you guys were talking, this type of education among educators, it could be very good to have as, I don't know, have you done that before or are planning in conference and where all educators are together? Like example, we got one coming up this summer in AATSP in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And then, yeah, SW Colt will be in 1 week.
Oh
I'm
wow.
waiting for that one to, yeah. So
Mhm.
maybe registering to this conference,
Okay.
expose these type of subjects like that, we eventually
Yes.
get to each one and every one educator in our fields or university, all levels, because it is
Yes.
something that we need to keep going and keep bringing more informational presentations,
Awareness.
anything.
Yes.
Yeah, awareness,
Hmm.
everything, because as we was talking back in February about Black History Month, we're
Yes.
not just there for Black History Month only. We
No.
exist every single day. But how we can expose what we feel when it comes to these type of conversations is through conference, is through a lot of, I mean, professional development, everything. So I'm very happy that you start working with Sprout, this
Yes.
organization, and I will go ahead and help in everything I have possible for this culture and diversity strategies that you are creating, and I appreciate that a lot as
And
well.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. Um, this has been, like I said, this is something I felt called to do, just seeing the things that I've seen in education. I have over 20 years experience in education. So um, I am currently also a director of special education. So I see a lot of inequalities But the passion that I have for students of color, I just know that there's so much more they could do. There is so much more that they deserve. And it's as simple as engaging in a learning environment. And that to me is something small, but at the same time, it's something major that can make a life changing decision for those students.
Yes, and make them feel accepted, make
Yes.
them feel
Hmm.
welcome to the environment, and sometimes it's the only place that they feel safe.
Exactly, exactly. And that's it goes back to Maslow and um, that safety level. You have to make sure that they do feel safe in that learning environment. You do have to make sure that they also feel safe in being themselves and having conversations and not feeling like it's a threat to the environment or they're making bad decisions just by being themselves.
That is correct. Any other comment or question for today for Dr. Freeman? All right, so we have in another Cafecito Cultural with this amazing conversation today. We're going to continue to have Mr. Freeman in our cafecitos because I'm thinking all of this professional development that you have in plan in April. So let's keep in contact so we can inform our
Yes,
members as
yes, I
well.
sure will. Yes.
We need this in our careers. So I'm going to go ahead and take a nice picture of all of your wonderful faces right
Mhm.
now. So ready? Let me make my screen more. All right. 1 second. 1, 2. Thank you for that beautiful heart, Kevin. 3.